Hi, everybody. I'm Jen Johnson, and this is Thought by Thought Healing, where I talk about everything related to chronic pain and chronic symptoms and why we can heal from them because of current neuroscience that is really proving that it is the brain that sustains most chronic pain and chronic symptoms. Most of my story is or revolves around recovering from chronic pain, and so mostly I talk about that, but this is true for all chronic symptoms. When the brain gets in ruts of producing these symptoms, it sometimes needs help getting out of it. And even more often, there's something deeper underneath the symptom that's perpetuating the fight or flight nervous system and setting the brain off into what we call the danger signal of something is not quite right or not resolved in the brain. And so that chronic emotion, whether suppressed or conscious, is kind of driving the nervous system to be in high gear. We want to get that body and that brain down into rest and digest, where the body can find homeostasis and heal and recover from those symptoms. So I'm a chronic pain coach, and I talk about this from many different perspectives, and I have different professionals come on and talk about it from a medical perspective or a psychology perspective, etc. But I like to come at it from a Christian perspective, or a biblical perspective, if you will, because that's important to me. So if that is something that is an important part of your life, then you're in the right place, and you should definitely subscribe. Also, you should check out my website, thoughtbythoughtealing.com. On there, I have my story if you're curious about what kind of symptoms that I recovered from pain to IBS to SIBO to insomnia to even like major sensitivity to cold that caused pain. Lots of things can be caused by the mind-body connection, or the mind-body, the fact that our bodies and our brains are one unit. Okay, so sometimes I like to get on here and just talk about things that I've been thinking about and getting really back to the basics this week of our reaction to our symptoms. Our reaction is a huge part of this puzzle. It is a very non-spiritual part of it, if you will, or maybe it is because it's fear. We could definitely debate that, but how you respond is really, really important. Because if we respond in fear and, oh no, what should I do? How should I deal with this? Is this caused by some structural thing? Then that's going to perpetuate the cycle, and it's going to make it worse. And you're going to be in that fear symptom cycle because you have a symptom show up and then you have a response to that symptom. And if it is in fear or anger or frustration, fixing it, trying to figure out what it is, those are all Howard Schubiner's F words, then you're going to continue to essentially just push that ball of pain down the hill. And it just gets worse and worse and gathers more and more. So a big part of this journey is really taking a step back, unengaging from it a little bit, and being able to respond when those symptoms show up with kind of like this, no big deal. I can handle this. I'm strong enough. I'm not scared of you. This is not a big deal. Even though internally you may be wanting to make a big deal out of it, you may be wanting to run from it, do anything you can possibly do to get away from it, we want to actually do the opposite and realize it's just TMS. It's just mind-body syndrome. This is just neuroplastic pain. I'm just fine. I'm just fine. And something I was struck by this week was this verse in Proverbs. Proverbs 26:4-5 says, "Do not answer a fool according to his folly, or you yourself will be just like him." And the next verse says, answer a fool according to his folly, or answer a fool according to his folly, or he will be wise in his own eyes. So there is a time, and I'm referring to my own symptoms or my thoughts or my emotions as foolish in this case, which is not always true, but sometimes it's true. Sometimes our thoughts are not grounded in truth and they're just straight up foolish. And to engage in arguments with our thoughts or our emotions or our symptoms is not the right way to go. Sometimes we need to just say, nope, not going to believe that fear. No, I'm not going to fall into the trap that symptom is pulling me into. And instead, I am choosing peace. I am going to choose to stand up strong and say, I've got this. I have a God that loves me, and I'm safe in this moment, no matter how comfortable or uncomfortable that I am. And I know that's a lot easier to say than to do, but it's really it is a key part of this journey, is to be able to kind of have this attitude of, nope, I'm okay, and I'm going to choose to believe that. And the interesting thing is that as we do this work, as we stop responding to our symptoms, as we start in angst, or we stop that angst, that reactive part of us, which actually, as a tangent, I want to put a disclaimer in here, or something that may be encouraging to you. We cannot stop the initial thought, the initial emotion, the initial impulse, the trigger, if you will. That's not within our control. What we are empowered to do, especially in Christ, is that we are empowered to change how we react to that thought, to that emotion, to that temptation, to the symptom. We have a choice. And sometimes that requires planning and thinking in advance. How am I empowered? How am I capable of responding differently? In that, going back to that verse of how we respond, sometimes it's good to respond in the way that I'm talking about, and sometimes it's also important to respond with truth. What is the symptom telling you? Maybe you're feeling scared, and we need to address it. And speak truth to the folly, the fear, and address it. So there's both, and it sometimes can depend on the state of being that you're in, or whether you have the truth or not. But when we start to strip away this emotional reaction, the fear, the catastrophizing, the I should go to the doctor because maybe there's something wrong with me, or maybe I should crawl into bed because I'm exhausted. When we start to pull away those reactions, we start to actually see the crumbs that lead to the healing, if you will. I like to see my symptoms as a big, fat, golden arrow on the ground, just showing me the way to healing. Once you start to uncover like one underlying wound behind and underneath that symptom, you'll start to see that it's pointing to something. It's pointing to the fact that, turns out I have pain when I am afraid of man, or that's called people pleasing. Or maybe it is when I get excited and I was taught that my energy is somehow too much for people to handle. So when we start to see these clues, we start to realize, okay, this points to discovering what the truth is. The truth is, I do not live to please mankind. My safety is not in people pleasing. And the other crumb is that God made me with this type of energy. And if somebody doesn't like it, that's okay. I still want to live in who God created me to be. So all these symptoms, when we start to get under them, they're really something that we can be absolutely thankful for. And I mean that from my heart. This journey of healing, if you can get into this mindset of it has a warning for you, and underneath that warning is a reason. And if you can look for that reason why it's there, and what then truth we get to claim, it always leads towards this freedom. And I think an important thing here, and why I come at this from a Christian perspective, is there are beliefs that we have sometimes that we have to look at. Because for example, if you believe that your responsibility as a good Christian is to keep people around you happy, then that belief has to be looked at. And so because as Christians, we believe in our beliefs, right? And so, which is a ridiculous thing to say, but it's very true, because sometimes we have beliefs that we think are grounded in what is good and what is right, and even biblical, and sometimes we're wrong. And a good indicator of that is if it is fear or anger driven, it's probably not from God, because He says, "Fear not, for I am with you." So if people-pleasing is a fear-driven thing for me, then I'm going to have to go back and look at what am I believing, and is it true? And this work to me will always lead us closer to the truth, which is God, and also will lead us towards freedom and healing also. So it's all in one fell swoop in this amazing direction. And your symptoms are something that you can actually just look at with curiosity instead of with fear, and with love and appreciation, which that love, appreciation, and that curiosity, you will hear that all around the mind-body community, whether it's Christian or not, that is a really powerful way to calm down the symptom, to calm down the brain, to calm down the body. How can we go back to homeostasis and peace that passes understanding, or finding regulation in the nervous system? They all have similar, I'm going to say, effects in our body, our brain body. So my encouragement to you this week is to not freak out when you have a symptom. Try to find yourself in a place of indifference. And I know that's hard. And I know that takes practice. And this definitely takes practice. The first time you try this, you will still be freaking out for quite a while afterwards, because it is scary. And I want to see you in that space. And sometimes all we can do is just make it through that flare up. All we can do is make it through this time where you need to mourn, or you need to work through these distressing emotions, and the symptoms are just part of making it through this time. But sometimes it is a time to say no, and to say, I'm not going to continue to react with fear to these symptoms. I am not going to overreact. I'm not going to go to battle with this negative, distressing energy. If you're going to go to battle with your symptoms, it should be with calm and with peace and with truth, and saying, no, I'm actually okay exactly how I am. I do not have to please all these people around me. I do not have to be perfect in this moment. I do not have to fall into the pressures of this world of success and getting everything done efficiently. I can actually rest, and I'm making up things right now that were part of my story. But what's yours? What is the way that you address the fool with the truth? And the flip side of that, because they're both and. Sometimes we address it with truth, and sometimes we say, nope, I'm safe. I'm going to continue living my life, even if it's uncomfortable. And I'm going to take joy in this moment, despite the symptom, despite how miserable it is. And that process of the despite, I'm going to be this, I'm going to have this energy, I'm going to have this thankfulness and gratefulness, and approach life, taking it by the horns, is part of the healing process. And as you do that, like I said, you will start to see the crumbs. But until you can stop reacting to those symptoms, all you'll see is the symptoms, and you won't see what's underneath it. So I hope that's helpful. Check out my website, like I was saying, thoughtbythoughtealing.com. Follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and reach out if you have any questions. Love you guys, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.